All right, let's jump right into this. We're going to unpack a puzzle that seems to just break all the rules of success we've ever been taught. I mean, how on earth does someone become a millionaire in cash by the time they're 24? It doesn't add up, right? It feels almost impossible. Well, let's break down exactly how it can happen. And that's the exact question that kicked this whole thing off. It comes from this really cool conversation between a young guy named Viet and his mentor, a 54-year-old self-made millionaire named Tai. Viet had just found out that one of Tai's other students hit that $1 million mark at 24, and he literally could not wrap his head around it. And you can totally see why he was so confused. I mean, think about it. For most of us, the timeline is pretty much set in stone. You get out of college at 22, maybe 23. You're just starting your very first real job at 24. The idea of having $1 million in liquid cash, we're not talking property, not assets, but actual cash in the bank, it just seems completely out of reach. It defies the whole timeline we're told to follow. But check out his mentor's response. It just flips the entire problem on its head. He basically says the weird thing isn't the 24-year-old's success. The weird thing is our own belief that you have to wait. We've all been trained to think that you need to be middle-aged, like he was, 44 when he made his first million, to somehow be allowed to have that kind of wealth. So, this gets us to the first big idea. Tai starts to just systematically tear down this assumption that being older gives you some kind of automatic advantage when it comes to making money. He's saying we're looking at the whole thing backwards. Now, what's so powerful here is just how logical it is. Tai asks, what does a 54-year-old really have over a 24-year-old? Physically, absolutely nothing. The 24-year-old is stronger, their mind is quicker, their memory sharper, they have endless energy, and their biological drive is just firing on all cylinders. In every single metric that fuels high performance, the younger person wins, hands down.
And I love this quote because it just illustrates the point with this blunt, no-nonsense humor. He's basically saying that nature itself has wired young people to outperform their elders. The whole idea that being physically weaker, slower, and more tired is somehow a prerequisite for making a fortune is, when you really stop and think about it, completely ridiculous. Youth isn't a handicap, it's a superpower.
Okay, so if it's not about age, and it's not about being in your physical prime, then what is it about? What's the secret sauce? Well, Viet, the student, he suggests that it must come down to a few key ingredients that older folks just have more of. And this is where the real strategy starts to reveal itself. So, Viet lays out these 3 things he sees as the pillars of success. First, you've got to have knowledge, a lot of it. Second, you need real-world experience, the kind you get from being in the trenches. And third, you need this thing called bonling. It's a Vietnamese word that's kind of hard to translate, but think of it as a mix of mettle, grit, courage, and just that raw internal drive to get stuff done. And now we get to the absolute heart of the matter. The mentor, Tai, agrees that those 3 ingredients are spot on, but then he reveals this game-changing difference between them, a difference that lets a 24-year-old basically skip decades of work. This is the ultimate shortcut. And boom, here it is. This is the big aha moment. That grit, that internal fire, that courage to just get up and do the work day in and day out, that has to be yours. 100%. Nobody can give it to you. But knowledge and experience, Tai says you do not have to spend 20 years grinding it out yourself. You can just borrow them. So what does he mean by borrowing? Well, it's not cheating. It's about being strategic. It's about finding someone, a mentor like Tai, who has already put in the decades, who's already made all the mistakes, and who's boiled it all down into a proven formula. When you learn that formula, you are literally borrowing 20 years of their experience. You're hacking time. Okay, so if the shortcut is so powerful, it begs a pretty obvious question. Why isn't everybody doing it, right? Especially older, more established people. Well, it turns out there's one single massive roadblock. This insight from Tai is it's so crucial. He says the biggest thing stopping people from borrowing knowledge is their ego. Just picture it. A successful 50-year-old director. Are they really going to sit down and learn a totally new way of doing things from someone they might secretly look down on, like Tai, who spent 14 years in prison? Almost never. Their entire identity is built on being the one who already knows. And the data, well, the data tells the whole story.
You look at the people who actually became millionaires using his methods, and a whopping 95% of them are under 44. The vast majority are between 25 and 35. The young succeed faster because they don't have decades of ego and "this is how we've always done it" holding them back. They're a blank slate, and they're ready to absorb everything.
And you know, Ty's own life is the ultimate proof of this principle, and a warning about borrowing from the wrong people. When he was a teenager, he wanted to get rich fast, so he borrowed his knowledge from a neighborhood drug dealer. And what was the result? 14 years in prison. But after he got out, he found the right knowledge to borrow, and he went from zero to a millionaire in just 11 years, blowing past all his old classmates who took the traditional route.
But hold on, there's another major trap here, even for people who can get their ego in check and borrow the right knowledge. It's that huge gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it.
The source has this brilliant name for this trap, the 1,000 gigabyte head. This is the person who just consumes everything. Every book, every seminar, every video. Their brain is just packed with 1,000 gigabytes of information on how to be successful.
And Ty uses this absolutely hilarious, unforgettable image to describe them. They absorb all this amazing knowledge, they nod along, they feel super smart, but they never, ever apply it. They're just stuck in theory. They stand there, as he puts it, holding it in and admiring their own supposed genius, but they never, ever pull the trigger.
And that's the bottom line, isn't it? Action is the bridge. It's the only thing that turns those 1,000 gigabytes of theory in your head into $1 million of cold, hard cash in your bank account. Without action, all that knowledge is completely and utterly useless.
Okay, so let's put it all together. Let's take all these lessons and boil them down into one clear, powerful formula for success. One that works at any age, but especially if you want to move fast.
This table lays it all out just perfectly. You've got 4 core components. 2 of them are completely non-negotiable and have to come from you: your own internal mettle and your commitment to taking action. The other 2, knowledge and experience, are the things you can hack by borrowing them from the right mentor. And just look at the obstacles. They're all internal, right? Fear, ego, and the trap of just knowing but never doing.
And here it is, the whole model in its simplest form. Your success equals your own grit, plus the wisdom you borrow from others, all activated by your own action. That's it. That's the entire formula.
So when you get to the end of all this, you realize we've been asking the completely wrong question this entire time. The puzzle was never really about some superhuman 24-year-old.
The real question is the one we have to ask ourselves. If the formula is this simple, if the grit and the action are up to us, and the knowledge and experience can be borrowed, then the only thing left to ask is, why haven't I done it yet? What's holding me back? Is it my ego? Is it the 1,000 GB head trap? And that's the final thought we're left with.